Guys, listen. If your girlfriend wants to get married because it makes her more loyal, run. Hello guys and welcome back. Okay, so where do we start with this one? So the title of the video is Men Shouldn't Get Married. It could have been titled 100 different things. It's pretty similar, to be honest, to the video that I did on successful men should stay single for longer. And I'll leave a link to that in this video so that you can watch both if you're interested in the topic. But men shouldn't get married. This is something that I've been thinking about for a long, long time. And I know I'm not alone. You know, I've seen podcasts with Joe Rogan and Dan Bilzerian where they've spoken about it at length. Multiple Joe Rogan ones. I've seen the comments in our "Why Should Men Should Stay Single for Longer" video, and I've seen how many people are anti-marriage in there. And I've got to say, it's nice to see, because I think for a few centuries now, you know, at least 10 generations, marriage is kind of being celebrated as a end-all and be-all of life. You know, mortgage, marriage, kids, get a good 9-to-5 job, pay your bills, you're a top man, move on. But we're in a generation now where people in general are questioning a lot more than they used to. So people are saying this isn't acceptable, I'm not having this, why should it be this way, why can't I create my own job, I don't want to be a plumber, maybe I can just film myself playing video games on YouTube and make 10 million a year. Entirely possible in this generation. And one of those points that sprung up a lot that thousands, millions, probably millions of guys are speaking about is, I think a lot of us have come to the conclusion that marriage is kind of pointless. So I ask this question to people all the time, and I never oppress my views on people, but the question that I always ask when it comes to marriage is, what are the benefits of marriage? Like, what is the plus points to getting married? And the best answer I've had so far from one person was that if you want that woman to have your kids and stay at home and look after them, then you should give her some financial security. I thought that was okay. That's not a bad reason. Except women don't stay home and do that anymore. The majority of women want to go back to, I don't know if that's true actually, but a lot of women want to go back to work. I wouldn't say it was the majority, but a lot want to go back to work. We live in a society now where women are equal, as it always should have been. And, you know, women are expected or would prefer to go and earn as much money as the men, you know, and live the same life. Why can't the man stay at home? Why can't we pay for someone to look after them? All these points are raised now. So if that's the best answer I've ever had, and that was only one person, it's a little worrying, because some of the worst answers I've had, which is 99.9% of them, is that, oh, you know, it's just what you do. It just feels right. I want the kids to have the same last name as us. Okay. You know, it's just nice, isn't it? You know, and everybody does this thing where they go, you know, it's just like, well, you know, it's just marriage, you know, it's just something that you do. And everybody waffles the Disney pitch. And I've said this for years, it's a Disney thing that's been created in Hollywood of, you know, that here's what happens, right? I grew up watching all these films. I would be too young to decide what to put on TV. My dad would be out working, and he used to work away a lot. And my mum and sister used to put these movies and films on maybe on the weekend that were female orientated. And I remember it would be like the Olsen twins or some soft shit. And the parents, I can't remember the film, but like people would get married or whatever. It doesn't have to be that film, but people would get married. And that would be the final scene. So things would go good, and they'd get really bad, and then they'd end off with a great story. And it was always, and they lived happily ever after, or the number plate, happily ever after, you know, some shit like that, happily married. And then it cuts. And we never get to see what really happens. We don't get to see that used to be 40% of marriages end in divorce. I would say that's up to about 50-60% now. And the only reason the statistic isn't in the 70s and 80s is because people cheat and some people are scared to split. Secondly, you've got a lot more people of the Islamic faith living in the UK and America now, and places like Canada, Australia. You've got people, you've got a lot of Indian people who stick together, and you've got these cultures where even if they're not happy with each other, they just stick together anyway. And we've got so many more diverse cultures living in these other areas of the world, like the UK and America, that I think it's holding the statistic up. Because honestly, I think if it was just white and black people, I think it would be about 80% of marriages end in divorce. Because let's be honest, people aren't supposed to stay together that long. We kind of force ourselves after a while. And, you see the fact that currently, with current data, I believe it's 40% of marriages will end in divorce at some point. And you just think to yourself, what is the point? And this is what these films never showed, is what happens afterwards. That marriage probably went on to be, to just break down and have a divorce. They probably have money problems. They probably argued 24/7. He probably got on her nerves. She probably really got on his nerves. He went to the pub, stayed out late. He got home. She accused him of cheating. Like all these issues that get bundled into it that you don't see outside of the films. So all these girls, all these women have grown up as girls adoring marriage, and a few guys did too, but mainly women, because it got idolized, and they saw it's kind of in the same way that a lot of us saw Rocky films, and I'm sure a lot of people wanted to be boxers, or in that sort of sense, or everybody wanted to be Zach from Saved by the Bell, or everybody wanted to be the Fonz, or everybody wanted to be the guy from Grease at some point. There's always these icons. Well, with women, their only icons for about 60 years was the woman who got married, the pretty woman who got married. And that's what they grew up watching. And they idolize it so strongly. When I have this debate with women about why they want to get married, it's that whole kerfuffle about, well, it's just nice, it's what you should do, and it makes somebody more loyal. Guys, listen. If your girlfriend wants to get married because it makes her more loyal, run. Get the fuck out of there. Because I say this point to women all the time. What's the difference between having a ring on your finger and a new last name in terms of cheating? I could still cheat. I could cheat on my wedding day. I could cheat the next day. I could cheat 10 years later. I could cheat behind my kid's back and my wife's back. I wouldn't. I'm not going to get married, but I wouldn't do that. My dad did, and other people do. And it's just kind of a part of life. And people always say, we're going to get married and then he'll be more loyal and it's going to prevent all these problems. It is such a hollow thing to do, marriage. Such a hollow thing. You're going to this ceremony for Instagram photos, really, in the modern era. Because Dan Bilzerian used the perfect phrase where he said that marriage is a negative free roll, which is a gambling term, which means that there's no upside for the man. So basically, the woman gets to secure around about 60% of the man's income. The courts always go with the women. Even if she's not in the right, the courts will find a way to say that, he, neglected her, didn't show her any attention, abused her. Like, she can make up whatever she wants. She's probably going to walk away with 60% of that guy's net worth. For the guy, he's just basically, even the wedding, I'll get to that in a minute, but the guy's just signing off 60% of his net worth. And the upside is, I mean, put your answers in the comments. What is the upside for the guy? He loses most of his money if things go wrong. He's got most of his money tied up. I mean, everything that he's worked for, it could be the same for the woman, but this is first man, right? But everything that he's worked for is now in his wife's name as well. He's just signed everything over. And you just think to yourself, where is the guy benefiting here? Like, if everything goes right, it's no different to what it was before. So you could date, let's do this 2 scenarios. So just to touch on the point that I was going to miss there. During the ceremony, it's all about the woman. Photos of the woman. How beautiful does the bride look? Guy's just in a normal suit, just shows up, fuck off. That doesn't benefit us either. So it's not even about us. All the photos are about the bride. And, groom just throw him in now and again because it's a couple's day, right? But it's more about the bride. Nobody ever talks about the groom. But when you compare the two, so let's compare the two, right? Relationship with a woman, you marry that woman. Okay, so in the relationship, as long as you're in a certain culture, I get it if it's a religious thing. Not that I'm religious, but I get it. But in, let's say, most white, black, Hispanic, that sort of just, I don't want to say everyday people because it just sounds like I'm outliering people, but just 90% of kind of the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, the population, right? Most of the men that are watching this now that aren't maybe religious or maybe are but don't believe in marriage that much. You can have sex with your girlfriend. You can have kids with your girlfriend. You can live with your girlfriend. You can get a joint bank account with your girlfriend. I believe you probably could, right? If you can't, then I mean, who wants that anyway? But if you can't, you can both probably just dip in and out of that bank account. You could probably just give her your card and she pays money in. Like, it's not hard to do. You could have kids and give them the same last name. So you could just put your name on the certificate for the kids. Oh, now your girlfriend doesn't have the same name. Okay, here's a couple £100, a couple $100. Go and get your name legally changed. Same first name, just add my last name. Now we've all got the same name. Oh, you want a ring? Whatever. I'll happily buy you a ring as a piece of jewelry, as a fucking present if you want. But you're not getting my net worth. And I just think, so what, drawing all of that out of the way, it's like, what is left with marriage? Well, for the man, everything's exactly the same. He's just got a massive bill from the wedding. He has to pay for this honeymoon, and 60% of his net worth, if not more, is now tied up legally in a contract. Love. Contract. Don't think those two go together. I love you, let's have a contract. Doesn't really match, does it? Doesn't merge. For the woman, she still benefits because she's getting way more money promised if anything goes wrong in the future. Even if she cheats, it's very hard for the man to prove it. She can still walk away with all that money, and she'll probably keep the kids and get paid for that. We seriously need to change the laws for men. It's so unfair. But here's the solution, guys. Don't get married. And millions of men are not getting married anymore. Now, the whole MGTW movement, which the more I look into, before I said that there were some issues with it, the more I look into it, the more I think, now if you're an 18-year-old guy who's never had a girlfriend and you're MGTW, I don't think that's fair yet. If you're a 38-year-old man who's had 60% of his net worth slashed out from working your balls off all your life, and the woman cheated and she took it all and you don't get to see your kids, I get it. I'm shocked you're not an incel, put it that way. Which I'll do a video on later because I think those guys need some help, and everyone goes crazy at them. I think they need some help. They need encouragement, not the other way. But it's just so difficult for men. But in that MGTW sense, I get that with those guys that have been fucked over. And the thing is, guys, here's the motivation for us to get married. I know about 2 couples that are still together, and I'm 27. And I mean married couples. Like, I've known a lot. My mum and dad's friends, other people, they've got kids and everything. And the 2 people that are still together, I know one of the couples, they're in their like 70s now. I know one of the couples have both cheated on each other relentlessly. And the other couple, I don't know. It could be loyal, but I don't know. That's a bad ratio. So out of 100 couples, 98 are no longer together. And out of those 2 that are left, 1 has cheated. I've known that they've cheated. So that's 1 out of 100 successful marriages. So the law of averages just says it's a waste of time to begin with. And then on top of that, you could lose 60% of your net worth. And then on top of that, I feel like when you want to hang out with a girl, when you actually want to be with somebody, it's natural, it's organic, it's fun. As soon as that turns into a contract and somebody's saying you're kind of locked into this, you can't leave if you wanted to. Even if you wanted to leave, we're going to punish you for leaving. That's worrying, and that kind of takes the love and the fun aspect out of it, and it just makes marriage shit, in my opinion. The other thing is, as soon as the government, the state, whatever it might be where you live, as soon as they give you a tax incentive for getting married, panic. Like, we've seen what's happened with Epstein and all the other cases around the world and all the conspiracy theorists that have proven true over the years, like 9/11. People made some statements, got blamed for it, and then you see it come true. You're like, do you know what? The government don't look out for our best interests, ever. Just ever. You can see that with this coronavirus. They couldn't really give a shit, guys. Until everything starts going wrong for them, they're like, nah, it's fine, just quarantine that and that. Like, nobody's doing a good job, right? They're all out for their best interests. So when they give you a tax deduction, there should be red flags. And they give people a tax deduction for getting married. That should tell you everything you need to know. There's an incentive to get married for a reason, because of the amount of money that gets made off the back of it. Through, the marriage itself costs a bomb. The honeymoon, a bomb. Divorce, a ton of money. And everybody makes money. And married couples are more likely to have kids. They're more likely to have a mortgage, buy a home. There's more money going into the economy. I think marriage is the catalyst for men having a bad life. So if you were to get married at 48, 50 and you're already successful and you just cruise into, your elder years, it could probably work. You've already done what you had to do. You've built this great foundation of success. If you were to get married at like 21, like we used to, and it used to be celebrated, 25, 30, I feel so sorry for those guys that are under 30 and they're getting married. It hurts. And they're getting a mortgage with a woman, maybe planning for kids. It scares me. If you do that, you're probably going to fuck everything up before it even gets going. So watch out.